Okay, good day everyone. So we are going to talk about we are from International Internship University, brings quality training programs and committed to providing better and virtual education to all the young educators, all the young learners of the globe. So what we are going to do. Okay, so today what we are going to do here is right. So as a result of we are from International Internship University. And our main task is to bring quality training programs is committed to provide better and virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. So my name is Nuwan Dissanayaka. So today what we are going to do here is we are going to learn how to become a good teacher. I think we are going to learn. So if you take this one, how to become a good teacher, first of all, we have to see how do we learn. So when you look at this picture, what do you see in this picture? Any guess? Yeah, very good. Some of you see a dog. You see a dog here. Now you might be wondering, the reason here is some of you might see a tree somewhere here, right? So which means if you take, this is a meaningless picture. But when you look at it, what happened? Your brain try to make something meaningful out from this meaningless picture. So that's the first thing we have to remember. So when you take our brain usually like to learn using visuals. That's the first thing. Right. If you go for this second thing, so if I ask you, what is the 17th letter of the alphabet? Can you guess? Okay, so most of you are like thinking, right? Okay, you got it. How did you get this? So what did you do is, you went back in your memory and you remind the first rhyme that you have learned in your childhood. That's the alphabet. So it's a first, even though it's a first rhyme, what has happened, you can still remember it. So the second thing you have to remember here is we like to learn using rhymes. That's the second thing. Right, let's go for the third one. Right, look at this picture. Now close your eyes. So when you close your eyes, what you have to do is, so close your eyes, then you imagine that you are going to have a bite from this line. So if you didn't get it, you can try it again. So close. So imagine that line in top of your palm. And you are going to little by little, you are going to take it close out and you're going to have a bite. You got the feeling, right? So why did you get the feeling? Because a feeling is the third thing that you will never forget. So if you want to become a good teacher, good educator, these are the three basic concepts you have to follow. You have to always follow visuals, rhymes, and feelings. Like, let's try to do a thing. Can you spell the word crystallization? Okay. So I'll try to also do it. So it's CRYSTALLIZATION. Crystallization. So it's not the word, it's how our brain works. That's what we are. So when you look at, if you ask from any person, you can ask from anyone, any of your friend, a little bit hard word, they ask them to spell out. So these are things you will understand. You will observe these things. So when I try to spell the word, I never look at you. I never look at this camera. What I did was I looked a little bit high up in that wall. So actually what I will do is I'm trying to picture the word. So because pictures are the things which you can remember. Let's take this one. If I tell the word human heart, what comes to your brain? Human heart. Is it a picture or a paragraph? If it's a picture, right, it might be when I say heart, you might get the heart shape, or you might get the picture of the human heart, the organ. Most of the time you will get a picture that you have seen in a book or like a model, anything, a picture comes to you. So that means the picture is the thing which you can remove. So actually what I'm trying to picture the word. I'm not trying to memorize the syllables. I'm not trying to memorize the characteristic. I'm not trying to memorize the letters. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to picture the word. So first thing is, second thing is, I'm just saying it syllable by syllable. And at the middle, you will observe that the person is stopping and he or she is trying to feel it. That's the second thing you can see. They are trying to feel it. So that means you look at the picture and take the picture in your brain and you're trying to match them together. That's what you're going to do, feeling it. And if it feels right, we will stop. If it feels wrong, we'll go back and start from the beginning all over again, how to pronounce the word crystallization. So can you see that picturing was there, feeling was there. So where's the rhyme part? Can you see the IIU when I say crystallization? At the end, I just said TION as fast because that's a rhyme I have learned while I'm learning English. So when I say shun, action, ACTION, so you have to think about AC only. So dictation, TION comes at the end. You can see that this TION, without knowing, it has become a rhyme. So that means if you can combine these things, picturing, sounds, and feelings in your teaching and learning processes, that's the best way to teach. Let's see what are the problems we have at the moment. So usually the education system almost all over the world at the moment is a pyramidal structure. Pyramidal structure means you have someone who decides what to be taught and what to be learned. So that's a person. And that person follows he or his knowledge or his instructions to the second level. It might be the educational directors. So they will follow their instruction to the teachers and it goes to the students. So actually we are in the pyramidal structure, we are in a like we are in locked, or we are like what we are going to do is we are in like in a one small compartment. So we never think outside the box. So in a pyramidal structure, you will find a teacher who we call transmitting teacher. So in this diagram, I'm showing the teacher in gray color. So these small circles are students. So you can see that why I am using different colors. The reason is they have different identity. What will happen if you go through this pyramid structure school system? These students at the end of the school years, they will lose their identity. You can see that all of them become gray in color. The reason is they lost their identity. They received an identity which was created by which is supposed to create by the education system. So which might be good or which might be bad. If it's a bad one, it will be very harmful. Even though it's a good new culture, new personality, or bad new personality, it's not about good or bad. It's about you are losing your own values. That's the problem. So you will see the classroom like this. You have one person who's controlling the classroom. We call teacher, and he or she directly giving instruction. But if you want to become a good teacher, first thing is you have to deviate from this structure. Remembering that these are three concepts: pictures, rhymes, and feelings. So you have to make sure that your lesson or your teaching focus on these three concepts, and you have to move to a networking structure. In networking structure, teacher is just a facilitator or the mentor. So for an example, now let's take a classroom. So teacher you can find in this networking structure is a webbing teacher. So teacher just facilitate for learning opportunities for students. For an example, I have another classroom where teacher is there, and there are students around the teacher. And they have different colors because they have different identities. So the teacher just act as a facilitator for network. So the kids won't get the knowledge only from one person. The kids start learning from each other, from the teacher, from outside resources. So with all these ones, they will gain knowledge, but most important, they will not lose their value at the end of the year. When you take end of this program, they will not lose. The classroom of this networking structure will look like this. So most probably they will have groups rather than sitting as an individual person. So how can we use this networking structure? What are the models we have to use to teach students using this networking structure? So there are many more. So I'll just discuss few because there are many more techniques. So we will be able to discuss in another session. So I just do two things. I'll just explain them properly. So rather than going about the many techniques, so we will stick to only two techniques I'll do. First one is it's better to learn using investigative learning. So these are the concepts that we have tried, and I have tried and I have got results. For an example, this is one of my classroom projects. So these are not from our study syllabus, but we used to do it. So it says there's a balloon. So a student is given a balloon and a bottle and few caps of bottles. They are supposed to build a car which travels furthest distance. So there are groups, or maybe you can ask them to do individually. So at the end of the project, the car that they have designed should travel the further distance. So that shows that. So they are start thinking new things. So they have to minimize the friction. They have to make sure that these wheels will rotate really fast. And they can't minimize things. They can't make the friction zero. If its friction is zero, the wheels will rotate, the car will not move. And they have to make sure that they will have the huge amount of air capacity. They are starting to learn. They will start to learn, and they are learning by investigating. This is another project you can try in your classroom. You have given a piece of wood materials, and a small ping pong ball, and few like some rubber tapes with elasticity, and you ask them to make a catapult. So the team which builds a catapult for the furthest distance will be the winner. So without knowing, they will learn about the mechanism of a machine and what are should be the throwing angles and which direction, how to take the advantage of the wind. All these things they will learn. Is another one. So in this one, what we ask them to do is we ask them to create a Mars rover with a certain weight, let's say 500 grams, and you have to throw this Mars rover from the top of the building, and it should land without any damage. So they have to think about the strength of this rover. They have to think about how it's going to land without. They might think about using one parachute or collection parachutes. So with these techniques, they are learning, investigating. So as a teacher, you can also think, what are the things I should give them task? That task contain all the science, all the art, and all the skills that they need, how to use a scissor, how to use a glue gun, how to use all this knowledge and combine them together. So that's one thing you can make this networking structure. And since you are making them, you are feeling it. When you are making something, you feel it. And you can remember the incident. It's a picturing. All these things you will remember. These are the projects that we have done with our kids with this under this investigative learning. So this is how we can make a curtain opening and closing system using pulleys and to make it function. So these are the plans from students, and you don't believe it. Success. So this is the real stage that we create. So that means this investigative learning is the first thing I will suggest, I will recommend for you to use in your teaching process. The first thing. So this is another one, another plan. So in this school has a limited space and they wanted to practice cricket using hardball. But the problem is they have a net, but it couldn't cover the whole part because this area is used by for other activities in the school. So you can't block this part completely. What the students used to do is they create a model like this where you can pull them and push them wherever you want. So when they want, they will pull all these three containers out, which will make a closed system. And then they are done with their practices. They can push it back. It's just one compartment. Other one, building a fume up. So you know that when you're in a science lab, you will produce toxic gas. So there has to be a safety precaution. This is a low-cost fume hood. It was also designed by students, and it was a success. At the end, it was built. The fume hood was built. So that means this is the first thing you have to know: investigative learning. So these are some examples. Okay, then I'll tell you another way. Okay, so now we know that investigative learning is a good thing that you practice to become a good teacher. Second thing is, rather than using lessons, now let's take you are using phrases like sentences, words to describe things. What if you convert that concept into a story? So usually you know that it's like to learn like to listen stories. So if you can convert the thing that you want to explain to a cartoon or another story, so that will be a best way of teaching students. For an example, let's take this one. So here I want to teach them about blood. What's the function of the blood in our body? So here I'm just converting the blood cell into a truck. So you can see this small truck is the blood cell. So now we are not talking about blood cells, we are talking about truck. So the duty of this truck is it has to transport. There are two compounds called oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it's transporting oxygen to up to these muscles where anywhere need energy, and it will come back and it will get carbon dioxide from the muscles and it will deliver back to the lungs. Get oxygen from the lungs, go to the muscles and unload it, and get carbon dioxide from the muscles, come to the lungs and unload it there. So it's a simple process. You are talking about truck. You can use a like small truck, small toy truck, and you can explain it. Then you have to know that, okay, this truck has a problem. This truck does not have an engine. So there should be a person to push it. So we know that most of the kids, they don't have real vehicle with engine. So they have someone to push the vehicle. So we found that the pushing person is heart. So what heart does is it gives the pushing power for this truck to reach its destination. Okay, let's go for next again. For our simple concept, truck went, load oxygen from the Mr. Lung and come to heart. Why? Need a little bit pushing power to go up. Heart, what is going to he pushed it towards the muscles, and the truck unload oxygen, got carbon dioxide in, again came back to Mr. Heart because again it needs a pushing power to go to lungs. See, so a very advanced concept which we call blood circular system is ended up becoming truck loading from one place and delivering it materials to another place where anyone can understand. Whenever they see a truck in their road, they start remembering about blood circular system. So that's what you can do. Second thing is, so we learn about investigative learning. Convert all your lessons into cartoons. It's not necessary to be cartoons. So these are the concepts. So I work in Finland. So these are the concepts that we use in our classrooms. So this is called a Liardo model. So in this Liardo centers, we have Muppet shows. So how students can explain their story to their friends using Muppet Show, or they can use shadow theater. So these are the concepts you can use. You can start building cartoons or Muppet shows, shadow theaters, all these to make your lesson more interesting. Now I taught you two more things. There are many more, right? So since the time is limited factor, so I'm not going to discuss all these things, yes. So I'll tell you some other things you can use. You can use games. So you can create card games, you can make treasure hunts. So the gaming concept of during lessons is like unlimited. So there are many number of games which we have introduced. So if you want more to learn about, so you can ask for me. So I told you three things: picturing, rhymes, and feelings. Then I told you how we can use those things in our lessons by using investigative learning and using story mode, or like role play. Anything is possible. There are many other things, but I'll go for deviate from that one. So that's the pedagogical part. Come to the managerial part. So sometimes the teacher says that yes, we can do all this stuff, but there's a problem. How to manage my students? Yes, I know that part. Because if you take Europe region, so we are just addressing like the whole world. So if you take some regions, they have few number of students per class. But if you take another part of the world, sometimes you might have 50, 60 students per class to control. So when you have a situation like this, the thing is you should identify your students. So I'm just giving you another tip how to understand the way your classroom works. That will help you to get the grip, and then you can perform your task. So it will be a wonderful thing for you. So here I am showing 8 students. So I'm just using these different pictures because the reason is I shall show them that they are different. So these are like students, right? Just assume they are students. So you know that each student is different from each other. That's they have their uniqueness, right? What you have is, let's take you have 10 students. So you name them. Let's say the names of them are like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So this is a thing you can do. So just create a table like this. So here I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Those are my students. And downward also, that means vertical line also, I have the same students. So I have a two last set. So it's something like this. So horizontal and vertical, I have all the students are included in one table. What is the use of this one? I'll just take this small section, right? So first I observe the student A. This is my student A. When I observe my kids, I can see that this student A is really good. The best friend of student A is student D. Okay, I just put number one. So best friends. So they always go together and they shown that they are the best friends. And the second best friend, obviously a child will have best friend, few friends. So their second best friend is the student C. The student C is the second best friend. And student B is the third best friend. So we have student D, C, and B. So we have three best friends for this student. Okay. Now, when you have these three best friends, so what I can see here is I just put these numbers. So if I take student B, it's the same thing. So when I look at student B, I can see that student B's first best friend is student C. Student C is the first best friend. Then student D is the second best friend, and student A is the third best friend. So I can see that, okay, so they are also friends. I just numbered them based on their friendship. So if I can do it for the whole table, the whole classroom, I'll get a table like this, right? In this table, what I can observe, I can see that, okay, I just put these students A, B, C, and D. Then what I'm going to do is, now I can see that student A is best friend with student D. So that means from A to D, I am drawing an arrow. Can you see A to D, there's an arrow. And if you go for student A, second best friend is student C. A to C, there's an arrow. Student A's third best friend is student B. So A to B, there's an arrow. If you take the student B, it's the same thing. So student B is there. From student B, the first best friend is C. So from B to C, there's an arrow. The second best friend is D. B to D, there's an arrow. Best friend is A. From B to A, there's an arrow. If I keep on drawing these arrows of the whole chart, this is my diagram. What are the uses of this diagram? If I look at this diagram, you can see few things. One thing is your classroom has two clusters. If I show them, the clusters will look like this. Right. So in my classroom, this is one cluster. So that means students are in groups. They have created their groups. So this is one cluster of students. And this is the second cluster of students. As well as I have one student who is a leftover. So first of all, I should address the problem, the socialization problems of my students. I think I get one important thing. I can see that the student D has a connection between this first cluster as well as this second cluster and this leftover, the students who is like left out from the classroom. So usually when you are trying to plan, let's take you are going to do a group event. So the first thing you have to make sure that you will give, when you are giving responsibilities for students, you have to make sure that students who can combine all these, like all the whole classroom together and make it supportive for your lesson. So student D is a good asset, as well as the student G, and these two can make sure that all the other students will cooperate in your lesson. Investigative learning. So this is one thing you can take the support of these students. Right. Then other than that, and also you can try to do something about the student J. Because you know that one student is lagging behind. He's left off from the like your classroom environment. So you have to talk to them. You have to talk to these students and you have to make sure that everyone come together. First, when you create the unity among all the students, and then after that, if you take this like support from each and every individual, you'll be able to do your lessons more efficiently. Okay, those are the things I want to explain. One more thing I want to learn, give you an advice. So there are many methods. Most of the methods have not been discovered yet. So there are plenty of things that you can use to become a good teacher. But the first thing is you have to start to think new. So you have to think out of the box. That's the first thing you have to learn. So I'll finish before finish my section. I'll tell you two stories. So there was this story about called Eagle story. I think you have heard. Let's see. In this story, what I want to like share with you is there was an egg which belongs to an eagle, and it fell down. Okay, and rolled and end up in a place where a hen is laying her eggs. Right. Now the egg hatch. So our eagle came out. This is a baby eagle. And this baby eagle started to think because it's surrounded by chickens. So I'm also a chicken. So this baby eagle grew with the chickens. And now is a young, strong eagle staying in the farm with other eagles. And one day, this eagle saw three eagles flying high up in the sky. And this baby eagle, now is not baby, now is young eagle, thought that if I were an eagle, so I could have fly. He asked from his friend. So we are also birds. Why can't we fly? So all the other chickens laughed at him, said that don't do stupid things because they don't fly. So he's asking the same question, but everywhere is a negative feedback from him. So now this our eagle who believed itself that it's a chicken now is about to die. So on its deathbed is looking high up in the sky and seeing that another eagle is flying high up in the sky. So this eagle is thinking, if I were an eagle, I could have fly. So what is the problem with this one? This one, it was an eagle. It is an eagle itself. So the problem with the mentality. So if you want to become a good teacher, it doesn't matter the techniques, whether you want to use the techniques which I told you, or you're going to create your own techniques. It doesn't matter. Unless you like to do new things with the right attitude. That's the best thing. Most of our teachers, educators, they are eagles who strongly believe themselves are chief. And the second thing you have to do is, now you might start a new thing. And you might start new thing and it doesn't show like results. And you feel frustrated. Then I want to tell this story about Chinese, how to grow Chinese bamboo tree. So if you want to grow Chinese bamboo tree, first thing you have to have a cane. So you take a cane and you want to plant it. That's the first thing you have to do. And you have to plant it in the soil. And you have to always look after it. You have to keep on watering and putting fertilizers for 1 year. And if you do it for 1 year, you don't see anything. Okay, continue to do it for 2 years, second year. Still, you won't see anything at all. 3 years, nothing. So imagine you come out from a house and you see a person who's watering to the same place for almost 3 years and you don't see anything at all. So you'll be start laughing at him, right? So the same thing will happen. So if you keep on working on something and which doesn't make any results, the people are laughing at you. So after 4 years, nothing will happen. 5 years. After 5 years, you will see a small part coming out from the ground. And after 5 years and 2 weeks, you will see giant Chinese bamboo trees. So the summary I want to like tell you here is, it doesn't matter what is your story, what is your like dedication. If you keep on working on something for 5 years, you'll be able to. So that's the summary I want to tell you. And with that, I want to like to finish my session. So we discussed plenty of things. How to become a teacher? Always you have to focus on three things. What are things? Pictures, feelings, and rhyme. So using these three things, there are many way teaching methods. Aiming techniques, or remote teaching, as well as you can use some activities, you can develop activities. So those are with the activities you can ask them to develop. So those are another thing. So using these techniques, you can create your own techniques. So we are happy to hear it from you. And the third thing you have to know is you should be able to identify. I would like to conclude my session. Yes. And hope you have a wonderful day. As usual, so I am Nuwan Dissanayaka. So if you have any doubts, any questions, you can contact me. And don't forget to join our International Internship University. If you have any doubts, you can contact them directly and they will be able to assist me further. Right. Thank you very much.